Hi guys, so today we are talking about some real life naturals. So naturals, soft naturals, and flamboyant naturals. These ladies were kind enough to send in their photos so that I could use their photos in my videos. So let's say thank you to them in the comments. And you guys know that if you are still confused about your kibbe body type, I do offer consults through my website and your photos are always private unless you tell me that I can share them. Before we talk about naturals, let's talk about what we are doing here at all. So there is a stylist named David Kibbe who characterized the body types into 5 main types. Dramatics like Tilda Swinton have long, narrow bones and an angular bone structure. Naturals like Selena Gomez have long bones with some width to them as well as some blunt angles. And classics like Zhang have moderate bones, not too long, not too short, not too angular, and not too rounded. Romantics like Marilyn Monroe have short bones and some round shapes to their facial bones as well as their skeleton. And finally, gamines are a mixture of opposites between sharpness and softness. The type of bone structure that these ladies have can help us figure out what kinds of lines complement them best. So in this video, we will talk about naturals. So here is our first natural lady, and I could only find one example of someone whom I could consider a pure natural. And I want to explain sort of how I came to this conclusion about her. So you can see that she has some primarily blunt angles to her skeleton, to her facial bone structure, and she also has some width to her shoulders and some width to her bones in her arms, but at the same time, she also has, you might notice, a little bit of sharpness to her facial bones. So you could say, well, hey, maybe she is flamboyant natural, right? So because she has that yang undercurrent coming from the bone structure. But then when you take a look at her eyes are a little bit more rounded and maybe her lips are even a little bit full. So you can see how now we have a sort of yin undercurrent in the facial features. So I would say in her case, I can't really see her being a soft natural, and I also can't see her being a flamboyant natural because this subtle yin undercurrent of the facial features will, in this case, just cancel the subtle yang undercurrent of the facial bones. And when you combine that with her overall body type, you see that her skeleton doesn't have any long, narrow bones in it. It doesn't have any sharp angularity. So really, the sort of two answers for the sharp angularity of her facial bones and the two answers, more or less, of some softness in her facial features cancel out, but her overall skeleton as well as her figure and her body type are all consistent with natural, so I would personally call her a natural. So now we've already talked about undercurrents here inevitably when we talked about natural. So now let's talk about soft naturals. So soft naturals have a yin undercurrent coming from their facial features and their figure, but their bone structure is still natural. So their facial bones are going to be soft yang, they're going to be bluntly angular, and their skeleton will also have some width to the bones as well as some length to the bones as well. So here is our first soft natural lady. You can see that she might look like she is a little bit shorter. So this doesn't mean that all soft naturals look a bit shorter. In her case, it's not always going to be 100% of the yin undercurrent comes from the flesh and the facial features. Just most of it should come from the flesh and facial features to be soft natural. But you can see how she has some blunt angularity to her facial bones, some more structure underneath the soft facial features. And she also has some width to her bones, a little bit of width to her shoulders. So this is going to give her body type some very relaxed lines to the overall look. But on top of these bones, on top of this bone structure and this facial bone structure is a lot of softness. So she has some full lips, some soft cheeks, really large eyes, and she also has some curves on top of this type of bone structure. So she looks amazing with some tousled hair, some slightly unconstructed draped looks, and that just looks so awesome on her. I also love these two images where she, especially on the left, you can see that her hair looks like it's very glamorous on her. But, you could say, well, this is romantic hair and her outfit looks very romantic there. And I agree that a romantic could wear this look pretty well. But at the same time, you can see some elements of natural, some draping there, some loose waist emphasis. The hair is a little bit tousled. So she looks very sort of romantic and flirty in this look. Whereas if a romantic were to wear the same look on the left, a romantic might look still very good, but still a little bit more casual than a natural would, a soft natural would in this look. And on the right, of course, she looks amazing with some tousled hair, that cardigan with some texture to it, that looks great on her as well. Our next lady is also soft natural. So you can see again, she has some blunt angularity to her facial bones. So you can see that her jawline maybe has some more angularity. Maybe her cheekbones have a little bit more structure to them, and her nose has a bit more structure to it as well. So it's not all sort of rounded lines underneath this soft flesh. There's more structure to the facial bones there. And then on top of this structure, she has some softness. She has some full lips. She has some soft cheeks, and the same can be said for her skeleton and her body type as a whole. You can see that she looks maybe a little bit taller, and she has some longer arms and legs and some curves, a bit more softness to her figure, and she looks amazing in these draped looks and some longer lines to the look, and some lightweight fabrics that are draped are amazing for soft natural. Our next lady is also soft natural, and I would say this lady has some ingenue essence that you might be able to see in some of the photos that I'll show. So you can see again the same kind of pattern. She has some pretty bluntly angular bone structure to her facial bones as well as to her skeleton, and she still has those longer bones as well as a little bit of width to the bone. So this is something that people can confuse with romantics. So romantics will have shorter bones and they can be wide, but if you have longer bones and they're also wide, this is more of a natural skeleton that you are looking at. So on top of these bones, she has some softness, she has some full facial features, she has some curves, some softness to her figure. So she is soft natural. She looks amazing in some draped looks. She looks amazing in some slightly oversized sweaters that can look very cute on her. And you can see on the far right, you could say, well, listen, this is gamine, this is soft gamine because it's cute. But if you take a closer look at that image on the far right, she does look absolutely adorable. But at the same time, you can see that that scarf is pretty oversized with some longer lines. Her shirt that she's wearing is not so tight and constructed. Her hair is long and kind of tousled, although it has some texture, and the bow is also oversized. So if she were to wear a very small bow, that would be more for gamines because of their shorter lines. But since soft naturals and all naturals have some longer lines, some larger detailing is better. So I think she looks absolutely amazing there on the right. This lady is also soft natural. You can see that she has some width to her bones, some more structure to her facial bones as well. But at the same time, she has some softness. So I would say she is really on the edge of being just a pure natural. But I do think that she has enough softness for a yin undercurrent. You can see she has a shapely bust line. She has some softer full lips. So she's kind of in between a soft natural and a natural. I would say she is primarily soft natural because I really love her in these two images. You can see her on the left with some loose waist emphasis, and that looks really good, as well as on the right. I really love that top on her, and the lightweight fabric really complements her. So that's a sign that she is maybe a little bit more toward soft natural than a pure natural. If you look really good in those lightweight draped fabrics, then that's more for soft naturals. Next up, we have flamboyant naturals. Flamboyant naturals have a soft yang skeleton, soft yang facial bones, and this is, of course, categorized by having some blunt angles, having some width to the bones, as well as some length. But within those bones, that bone structure, they could have some sharpness. They could have some long, narrow bones, adding into those primarily blunt bones. They could have some angularity maybe, but still primarily soft yang bone structure, and their figure and their facial features will also be soft yang, and they will not have that much yin to them to balance that additional bold yang undercurrent from the bones. So here we have a flamboyant natural, and you can see that she has some primarily blunt bones. She has some slight width to her shoulders, but at the same time you can see that she has some long and narrow arms and legs. So this is more of a bold yang, a dramatic undercurrent that she has in her skeleton. And the same can be said for her face. And for her facial bone structure, you can see that her jawline is pretty bluntly angular, so there aren't any sharp angles there, but maybe her nose has some sharper angles, and at the same time, she doesn't have any additional yin in the body type, in the figure, in the facial features to balance this yang undercurrent like our first example, our first natural lady had. She had that balance, that offset the yin and yang undercurrents. In this case, we have primarily a relatively athletic type of a build, and we also have some pretty taut facial features. So she has a bold yang undercurrent that we can see coming through from her bones. And you could say, well, Miriam, I can see in this bathing suit photo that her figure looks like it's maybe a bit more hourglass or a bit more moderate and not so athletic like a stereotypical flamboyant natural. So this is where I would say Kibbe is all about the bones. It is primarily about the bones. Yes, it's about the flesh, but there is not enough of an emphasis on the bone structure when it comes to our understanding of Kibbe. So this is just one factor, one answer, her shape being moderate. I would say it's answer C, not hourglass, at the same time not straight, and at the same time not athletic. So it's just in the middle, and it doesn't contribute to her overall yin-yang balance because it's a moderate answer. So that's what I would say about that. So let's take a look at her in some outfits. So I think she looks amazing in all three of these, and I really love the one on the left because you can see that plunging back looks really good on her to create some longer lines, and of course the long line of the same color looks amazing on her, pretty dark color from top to bottom, or really any color from top to bottom, as long as it's the same color will create that long vertical line. The bootcut jeans also look great on her because anything that is a little bit more tapered might break up her vertical line, so those bootcut jeans look amazing on her. The draped look in the middle looks really amazing, really casual, and it works with her lines. And on the right, the dropped waist effect looks really good, as well as some of that draping. And again, the bootcut jeans, that looks really good as well. Oh, and the open neckline on the right also looks really good on any natural, especially flamboyant natural. Our next lady is also flamboyant natural. You can see some more structure to her facial bones. You can see that she also has some width to her bones, and she has some length to her bones as well. In this case, I would say that her vertical line is answer A, so it's a dramatic vertical line, a pretty long vertical line. She looks very tall, and that contributes to her bold yang undercurrent, as well as her arms and legs being a little bit more narrow and long. I would say maybe they're somewhere in the middle between answer B and answer A, but overall I would say she is flamboyant natural. And you can see that in her figure as well as in her facial features. She has some moderate answers that don't contribute to the yin-yang balance, and potentially some more soft yang or sharp yang answers. So she doesn't have a yin undercurrent in her facial features and in her figure. So she is flamboyant natural. And she looks amazing in these looks where she has an oversized type of a cardigan or top, wearing the same color top to bottom like on the far right. That looks amazing. And you can see that same top with a lighter jean looks a little bit more broken of a line on her. And as soon as she puts on the dark shoes, the dark leggings or pants, and with the dark draped top, that creates that long vertical line that is so flattering for flamboyant naturals. And again, of course, with some draping, and that black top also has some of that strong horizontal line that looks amazing on flamboyant naturals as well. I would say this lady is also sort of in between flamboyant natural and pure natural, but I would still personally call her flamboyant natural. I just see a little bit of a yang undercurrent there, but maybe not as much as in some of the other examples. But you can see she looks amazing with some tousled hair. She looks amazing again in a long vertical line of the same color, all black top to bottom, or really any color works as long as it's all the same color or similar colors to not break up the lines. And you can see her bone structure here. You can see how she is definitely a natural. You can see how she looks pretty tall. She has some longer bones, so, and some blunt angles, so she is flamboyant natural. Our next lady is also flamboyant natural, and I would say she has some ethereal essence as well. So you can see that she has some more width to her bones and some length to her bones as well. She looks like she might be a bit tall, and at the same time she has some angularity to her facial features in this case, so I would say that contributes to the bold yang undercurrent of her body type as flamboyant natural, and she looks amazing in some draped looks. She also has that ethereal essence, so I think she looks amazing on the left with some tousled hair that's sort of blowing in the wind, and I think she looks amazing there. She also looks amazing in some, again, some draped looks like on the left, and that top that has a pretty open neckline with some draping again, and on the right, that is more of, I would say that jacket would work both for dramatic and flamboyant natural, or any natural as well, and maybe dramatic classic. It's a very versatile jacket, but I think it looks pretty good on her, and you can see how it looks pretty harmonious with her longer lines, and some little bit of unconstructedness to the fit also looks amazing on her too. All right, so let's do a quick comparison between soft natural, natural, and flamboyant natural. So in this case, it's really important to take the idea of the entire body type as a whole. But first, let's just look at the faces of these three ladies. So we have natural in the middle, and in this case, she has some balance between the yin, the slight yin undercurrent of her facial features and the slight bold yang undercurrent of her facial bones, and combined with her skeleton and with her figure, we can say that she is a natural. In the case of soft natural, we can see that she doesn't really have any bold yang. She doesn't have any sharpness to her facial bones, but she still has that structure underneath the softness of her cheeks and her full lips and her really round eyes, so all very yin facial features on top of some structured bones. And on the right we have flamboyant natural, so she doesn't have those lush facial features of soft natural, and she has a little bit of sharpness to her facial bones at the same time. And when we compare their bodies, you can see that soft natural in this case looks a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter maybe, and this adds a little bit to the yin undercurrent, but at the same time you can see similarities in all three of them for their bone structure, a little bit more width to the bone. But then you can see with soft natural that she has some more softness to the figure overall, and when we combine that with her facial features being soft, that is what contributes to her yin undercurrent. But still her bone structure is natural, primarily natural. But now when we look at natural, we can see that her figure and her body type does not have a yin undercurrent, so she has a more athletic type of a build, so this is soft yang. And finally, when we look at flamboyant natural, we can see that she also has some width to her bones, but we can see that she has some long and narrow bones too. A little bit of long and narrow bones mixed in there for the yang undercurrent. So she looks quite tall, so she has a dramatic vertical line and some long and narrow arms and legs, and combining that with her facial bones and her facial features and putting it all together, I would say she is flamboyant natural. So that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think. Check out my consults if you are still confused either about your coloring or about your body type. And yeah, leave a comment down below. Let me know any video requests, questions. Let me know what you think. And thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time.